Welcome to the Marketing Lab, your go-to podcast for all marketing information. I'm your host, Tyler, and we'll cover different tips, tricks, and strategies to help you level up your marketing, examine real-world case studies, and dissect all the marketing implications and how you can best use this information. And lastly, bring in industry professionals to share their knowledge along with entrepreneurs and discuss their marketing journeys in business. Now let's get our lab coats on and jump right in. So this was originally going to be one episode, but then in doing research for it, I felt that it would be better to split it up just because there was a lot of good implications for marketing behind this one topic that I was covering, and that's going to be the one that we're going to be covering today, and that's going to be the Dylan and Bud Light little partnership, I guess you could call it, that ended up causing a lot of uproar in the community. A lot of people weren't a big fan of it, and this caused a lot of people to end up boycotting Bud Light, causing a lot of drop in their specific stock, and they ended up losing billions of dollars. So in doing a lot of the research, it turned into a lot of good information. And when I was doing research for both of these topics, it made me think that one was a little bit different than the other, specifically the Bud Light one. And there was a lot of good marketing implications behind it. So let's dive right into it and get into a little bit of the backstory of what exactly happened if you aren't familiar with it. But if you are familiar with it, I'm sure this is going to be a little bit of a refresher and you already know exactly what happened. But Bud Light was an extremely popular drink choice for Americans and others across the country. They were exactly the number one Bud Light or beer choice for a lot of the North Americans and Americans across the country, and maybe even nationwide, Canada and all these different places. And I'm pretty sure they were at the top for quite a while. They held that rank, and what ended up happening is after this little uproar, they ended up losing that number one spot. So I feel like that's pretty big, because if you're holding this position for that many years, you got to be doing something right. You got to be marketing towards the right audience. And I wouldn't even say they have the best product out there. There's probably so many other beers out there that are a lot better than what Bud Light is, and I'm sure a lot of other people would say that, but for the price and for what you get out of it, I'm sure a lot of people were just happy with it. And then now there's just so many different other options, but everyone was flocking to this one brand because that's what you would always use. Say with your toothpaste, you're not really going to switch it up because that's what you've always had. That's what you've always gone with. And that's what happened with Bud Light. Everyone had always just gone with Bud Light. They've been around for so long. It's been that name brand that people just always got. It was, I go to the beer store, I get Bud Light because that's what I've always gotten. And now there's just all these other options. It's not like Bud Light has this amazing beer. It's fairly generic and it tastes like all the other ones. You'll hear people say, oh, that just tastes like water. And you'll hear that across all these generic ones, or I wouldn't say generic, but all these basic ones say that everyone likes to choose, say Coors Light, Budweiser, all these big brands, they're all, oh, that's just water, where you're probably going to get a lot better beer with, say, these breweries that brew it in-house, and they aren't really massively distributed and got to mass produce it. When you mass produce something, it tends to probably lose quality, and that's exactly what you have there. But with these brewery beers, you're going to be paying a little bit more money for it. So Bud Light doesn't have this amazing beer, and what they ended up doing, everyone was just had that specific brand name that they always flock to, and it's the same thing with, say, Crest or Colgate. If you always choose that specific toothpaste, you're going to go with that one. And what ended up happening, they had this marketing executive, and she, I guess you could say, I don't know how she got the job, but she said that the audience and the brand appeal for Bud Light was too fratty or out of touch humor, and they wanted to be more inclusive. And she wasn't taking into consideration their target audience of who they actually targeted, who actually bought their beer, and this inclusive and what they wanted to target isn't exactly the target audience that they really want to be targeting. And what they ended up doing is they ended up losing all the people that would always flock towards Bud Light because that's what they've always done. And she didn't understand that the reason that they're always number one is because they were always that namesake brand that everyone always went to. And she didn't take this into consideration. So what she ended up doing was, it wasn't even for sale or anything. It was just a partnership with this, I guess, I think he's a TikTok star, or he has a following there. And she wanted to connect with his audience. And she ended up creating this specific can for him where she sent it to him. And I don't know, he's transgender, Dylan Mulvaney. And what ended up happening is there was this huge uproar in the community where the target audience is American based. They believe in America, freedom, and they're really old school. And this is the target audience that you should be targeting, and not trying to be breaking into these new audiences. That's sure, they might be up and coming, but a lot of these people that are older, those are your target audience. And sure, you might want to be transitioning into this younger demographic because now they're coming up, they're reaching drinking age, and now they're going to be starting to have that majority population, and you want to break into there. But at the same time, the people that have kept you at number one, they don't like this viewpoint, or they don't like this specific direction that you're going. And that's what ended up happening really big with Bud Light and this partnership with Dylan. So after she targeted the wrong audience, saying she didn't like the target audience, the people that were drinking were fratty and out of touch, and they didn't like that. It's like they were, I don't want to get political, but it was like they're trying to push the specific agenda, and these people that came from a specific college and said, this is what you have to do, or maybe someone said, this is what you have to do, we have to target this specific audience, and we're trying to push this narrative, and that's why they did that. But what ended up happening is it caused an uproar because the specific target audience behind Bud Light, they don't like this specific agenda, or they don't, just let them drink their beer, let them be happy. And it's understanding that target audience, and she really failed to understand this. So they were the number one in beer distribution throughout America, and they said, let's try something new and go away from our values and beliefs. And that's a big no-no, because that ended up happening. And what ended up happening was all these people that shared the same beliefs and values that they thought Bud Light had, it just showed a little bit of Bud Light's colors, and maybe it was transitioning. Maybe this younger generation is starting to take over, or maybe there's these agendas, or whatever you want to call it. You got to stick to your values and beliefs. A lot of people flock to specific brands because they know what they stand for, they know what they believe in, and that's why they go to that specific brand. I know for me, I follow a lot of Andy Frisella, and I know a lot of his beliefs, his values, and that's why I like to support his First Form brand, because of his values, his beliefs, and what he stands for. And I know a lot of other people like to do the same, and that's how you get those evangelizing people that like to, or audience that like to support the specific brand. And that's how Bud Light was able to create this American brand. And that's what they were really based off of, is it's an American brand. They like freedom. They like America. They're patriots. And this new agenda with all these young generation where they're transitioning and doing all this other stuff, that's not really the target audience that Bud Light really has and has been. So you really want to make sure that you're focusing on the target audience at your hand, and the people that evangelize you and come to you every single day. And it seems like that's a big issue that's coming up, where there's a lot of people that are, or a lot of companies, I guess you could say, and it's starting to come out, and a lot more people are starting to support these other people that don't have this specific agenda or specific plan that they're trying to push onto people and force down people's throats. And that's a little bit of the case and scenario with this specific example of Bud Light, where it seems like they're trying to push a narrative, push an agenda, and a lot of people have been putting up with it and they didn't really say anything, but now they're starting to push back on it because it seems like with social media, a lot more news is coming out and a lot more people are starting to wake up and they're like, okay, no, this is not cool. This is not what we want. We want to just be free, have our own values, have our own beliefs. And there's a lot of, I guess you could say, fucked up shit that's going on within this agenda, this narrative, and a lot of people are starting to push back on it. And I think Bud Light was one of the first corporations that got hit by it and saw this effect of people saying, no, okay, you guys got to stop. And then shortly after that, Target did something similar and they ended up losing $1 billion in their stock. So you want to make sure that you are focusing on your target audience and you're not going away from them or going away from your values and beliefs. And this is the part that I originally wanted to have tie together with the other podcast episode that will be coming out next week. Is a lot of people were just going out and buying Bud Light just to say to blow it up or shoot it or dump it out or say this is the last time I'm supporting Bud Light. And it's funny because you're hearing $27 billion drop in sales, but all these people are buying a crap ton of Bud Light just to like blow it up or do whatever they want with it. And then at the same time, there's a lot of people that were making TikToks that were saying this is the specific type of person that drinks Bud Light. And what ended up happening, this caused or gave Bud Light a lot of free exposure and free marketing for Bud Light. And this is what the tie-in between this one and the next topic is all publicity, good publicity, because you hear a lot of the times it's free marketing. But in the case of Bud Light, it seems like it didn't end up turning out to be really good free publicity, or any publicity is good publicity, because with all this free publicity, everyone's making fun of it. I saw some videos of people that would go to, say, the store to buy some Bud Light, and they're like, oh yeah, I'm buying I'm buying some beer, and they're all like macho, manly type of thing, and then they would like grab a Bud Light, and then they would like be all sissy or talk funny, like, or gay or whatever you want to call it. Or there was another video where I saw someone grab some Bud Light and then they would walk away and then they would like bend over or whatever, and it was a guy, and then he bent over and then you could see like his thong, and it's like, these are the types of people that are buying Bud Light. And it's a lot of free exposure and free marketing, but is all publicity good publicity? And from what we saw from this and what we can take away is maybe it's not always good publicity or free any publicity is good publicity. So that was one of the things that I was going to tie into the next week, but I found a lot of good marketing implications through this Bud Light example, because what ended up happening with Bud Light is, and what we can take away from this and sum everything up, is knowing and understanding your target audience, because you don't want to branch away from the people that have made you the number one distributor or beer company in the world or in America, or whatever the exact number is. Maybe it's the world, maybe it's just America, maybe it's North America. But all these people have gotten you to there, and you know and understand their values and beliefs. So if you do run a business and you do have all these people that have come to you, that flock to you, that evangelize you, that tell other people about you, the reason that they do that is probably from one of two reasons. One being you have extremely good service and you deliver the best quality product or service, or it's because of your values and beliefs. They have the same values and beliefs as you that you're able to portray or share with the world, maybe through social media, maybe you have a podcast, YouTube channel, your website, your blog, whatever it might be. You're sharing these values and beliefs, and these people are coming there. And I know that's why a lot of people go to Andy Frisella's brands, because everyone knows exactly what Andy Frisella stands for, and that's why people flock towards him. He's American, he likes freedom, he doesn't want to be told what to do, and he has all these values, and that's why people like to flock towards him. And that's very similar with Bud Light. Everyone flocked towards them because it's like this American brand where it's like freedom, trucks and shit, and blowing shit up or whatever it might be, the Clydesdales. And they have this specific target audience, And what ended up happening with this marketing executive is she kind of ended up blowing it because she went away from the people that have made them who they are. And I'm not really sure why. Maybe they wanted to plan for 5, 10, 20 years out with this younger generation coming in and the older generation maybe dying out. She wants to try and capitalize early on this new generation, but there's been this huge pushback on this narrative agenda, whatever you want to call it. And I think this was just a first domino in this whole thing where everyone's trying to push this agenda and follow suit. And that's what you see with a lot of these smaller companies. They want to copy these big companies because that's what they're doing. They're like, okay, that must be working, so I'm going to copy them. And this isn't always the case that you want to be doing. And it's tough to do that, especially if you're a small business. How are you going to break into a market against these big competitors that have that brand name when you're doing the exact same thing that they're doing? And that's what you're seeing with my example with Crest, Colgate, Bud Light. You're in this specific household already. That's what people already went to. They know exactly what they're getting. Same things with, say, with McDonald's. You go to McDonald's because you know exactly what you're going to be getting. But how are you going to stand out from these people? Because it's tough to break into this market when you are doing the exact same thing that these people already have the brand value. People already go, like, and trust these specific brands. So you got to do something different. You got to show your values, show your beliefs to these people, stick to them, and know your target audience. And that's what Bud Light failed to do here. They failed to understand their target audience. They branched away from it and they saw the backlash on it. Will they ever get back up to number one? Only time will tell. It's going to be tough for them because they are starting to get boycotted, unfortunately, for the whole business, because I know it was an American brand at one point, and I don't know if it's just a few people or the whole organization. And once they ended up losing all this money, they're like, okay, we got to do something about this. We got to try and undo it, which is really tough to do, but they're trying to do it. They got rid of this girl that decided to do this marketing campaign. But what you do really want to do, know your values, know your beliefs, portray that onto your audience, your customers, and let them know exactly what you stand for and what you believe in. And that's going to create those evangelizing customers that come back to you. They talk about you. They go to their friends, their family. They say, this company's amazing. They have these beliefs, and you want to stick to that. Know your target audience. Speak directly to them. And that's what I got for this specific episode. And there was a lot of those marketing implications that I just said there about the target audience. And that's what I think differed from this one and the next week's topic that will be coming out. So that's why I did want to separate these two, but that's all I got. Know your target audience, know your values, know your beliefs, and speak directly to your target audience. So thanks for tuning in to the Marketing Lab. If you got some value out of this episode, share it with your team, colleagues, friends, or anyone you think this will benefit. You can leave a review and let us know how we did. We'll take any feedback so we can create the #1 marketing podcast out there and deliver the most value to you. If you'd like to apply to be on the show and share your expertise, head on over to newframedigital.com/the-marketing-lab. And at the bottom of the page, you'll find a form to fill out. Remember, every entrepreneur needs a lab, and this is yours. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next one.